Hi everyone, and welcome to our video titled Multiplying Polynomials. So let me highlight over that title. You can do the same, just kind of make it pop. And we're just going to jump right into some examples of how to multiply polynomials. So let's take a look at example 1. Example 1 should look pretty familiar to most of you. It says, use the distributive property. I'm going to change colors here. Use the distributive property to multiply. So what we're doing here is we're multiplying this monomial to this, let me change colors, to this binomial. So we're taking a monomial times a binomial. And to do that, we are to use the distributive property. So you know how to do that. You're going to take the term outside the monomial. You're going to multiply it to the first term inside the parentheses. So we're going to take 2x times x. Now, we've been working on this the last few days in this chapter. So when you take 2x times x, you can think of that as 2 times 1, which is 2. And then how many x's do you have? Well, 1, 2. So 2x to the second power. Okay, so I'm going to write that here. And now I'm going to take 2x times a positive 6. And when I take 2x times 6, well, I get positive 12x. Final answer. Pretty simple. I have seen many of you do this on ALEKS, and you may have even done this last year in your math class. Okay, let's go down to example 2. Example 2, similar. Use the distributive property to multiply. Okay, I'm going to highlight over distributive property. And now I'm taking this monomial y times, my pen's rolling here, times this trinomial y squared minus 3y plus 4. So I'm going to use the same.
Please on extension 1003. Mrs. Gleason, please on extension 1003. Thank you.
Sorry about that. So I'm going to take y times y squared. Let's do this off to the side. So y times y squared. Again, if you're using your shortcuts, you're using product rule, you know that when you take a y times a y squared, you're going to add those exponents to get y to the third. Or if you write it out, you've got 1y here and 2 right here, making a total of 3. So we'll go ahead and say that y times y to the second is y to the third. Now we're going to take y times the next term inside the parentheses, y times negative 3y. That's going to be negative 3y squared. And finally, y times positive 4y. Final answer. This is pretty simple. I mean, we're distributing, but we're also using our product rule that we've been studying in this chapter. Okay, here's where it starts to get interesting. And some of you have come to this on ALEKS, so this is gonna look pretty familiar. Okay, example 3 says, use the distributive property to multiply the binomials. Now this is a little bit strange. I don't think you've ever seen anything like this. When you see distributive property, you are used to having one term outside, a y or a 2x, a monomial. Now you have a binomial times another binomial. Well, here is how you use the distributive property to do this. I'm going to use this little piece of paper I cut here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover up this plus 4, okay? So you can look at this now. You've got a monomial now. See, you have this x right here times the x minus 3 in the second quantity. So we are going to distribute this x through to the second quantity. Okay, so we're essentially going to take x times x minus 3. Well, let's go ahead and do that. X times x, right here, x times x is x raised to the second power. And then x times negative 3 is negative 3x. Cool. So I am using the distributive property. I'm taking this first x here, and I'm distributing it or multiplying it to every term in the other quantity. Now, I'm going to slide this over top of what I've already done. And now I'm going to distribute this 4 to the second quantity, like so. So I'm going to add a 4 times x minus 3. And so when I distribute here, I've got 4 times x, or right here, 4 times x. That's a positive 4x. And a 4 times a negative 3, 4 times negative 3 is a negative 12. And there you have it. So I've distributed the x, 1, 2, and I've distributed the 4, 1, 2. Now the last part of this process is to look at what we've got remaining and combine any like terms we may have. So if you look at this, I've got like terms. I've got this negative 3x and this positive 4x, so we will combine those. The x squared stands alone, so I'll just bring him down. Negative 3x plus 4x is a positive 1x, or just an x. And then the negative 12 stands alone, so I'll bring that down. And you have just multiplied together two binomials. That's how easy it is. Okay, let's use the same technique on the next one. It says use the distributive property to multiply these binomials. So again, well, what are we distributing? Well, we're distributing both terms in the first quantity to the second quantity. So I like to start, leave him showing, and let's cover up the minus 1. So we're going to distribute 2y both here and to the back. So let's do that distribution. We've got 2y times y, which is 2y to the second power, because we've got the two y's there. Y squared. 2y times negative 5. Oops, sliding there. 2y times negative 5, negative 10y. Now slide this over, cover that up. Now we're going to take and distribute the negative 1 to the second quantity. Negative 1 times y, negative 1y. That's a 1, funky looking 1. And then negative 1 times negative 5, positive 5. And so final answer will come after we combine like terms here in the center. And so my final answer, 2y squared minus 11y plus 5. Final. Okay, we're doing great. Let's flip it. On this video, we're actually going to pause after these next 3. We're going to go to example 7 and stop, and then the next video will pick up from there. So we have 3 to go. So let's look at example 5. Multiply the binomials. Now it's not even saying by the distributive property. At this point, we should just know what to do. So in order to multiply these together, we're going to cover up this minus 4. Let's cover him up. And let's distribute. Here we go. So we're going to take x times x, and that's x squared. We're going to take x times 4, and that is positive 4x. So you see the distribution there. Slide it. Now we're going to take negative 4. Notice I'm taking the sign in front here, negative 4, and I'm distributing it to the second quantity. So negative 4 times x, negative 4x, Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. So every arrow that represents multiplication is indeed multiplication. Okay, like terms in the center, we've got a positive 4x and a negative 4x. So those eliminate, remember elimination method? Positive 4x, negative 4x, they're going to cancel out to 0. And so I just bring down x squared and minus 16. Final answer. Okay, let's take a look at example 6. We're just cruising here. Multiply the binomials. Now this one's interesting just because of the way it's presented to you, but let's not forget what this really means. You might say, well, where are the binomials? I only see one. Well, really there are two, because when you take a quantity like 2x plus 3 and square it, you know what squaring means. If you write it out, this means that you're taking 2x plus 3 times itself, and there are your two binomials to multiply. So let's cover and distribute. So here we go. Lay that there. So we're taking a 2x times a 2x. Boom. 2x times another 2x is 4x to the second power. 2x times 3 is 6x. Slide this over. We've got a positive 3 now that we're distributing. So 3 times 2x is also 6x. And 3 times 3 is positive 9. Get those like terms going in the center. And final answer will be 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. Trinomial. Okay, now it gets even more interesting. Take a look at example 7. This says multiply the polynomials, but this time we've got ourselves a binomial, which we're used to working with here, times a trinomial. So no big deal. You're just going to do the same exact thing we've been doing all along here. You're going to take your little piece of paper here. And again, if you don't have a little piece of paper to cover, then you have to sort of cover it with your brain, cover it with your mind. So we're just going to take the x. Here's the deal, though. When you distribute the x to the second quantity, you just need 3 of these arrows. 1, 2, and 3. So here we go. X times x squared is, how many x's do you have? Well, you got 3 now. 1, 2, 3. 1 plus 2 is 3. Second arrow, x times 4x is a positive 4x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Lovely. Slide it over top. Now we're distributing a positive 2. And not once, not twice, but ta-da, 3 times. So let's keep going. 2 times x squared, positive 2x squared. 2 times 4x, positive 8x. 2 times negative 3, negative 6. Okay, now this is a little bit more messy, let's call it, but that's okay. Let's start highlighting our like terms. Let's start with the x cubed. Do we have anything else like it? Nope, that's the only one. Bring it down. Down, down, down it comes into the final answer. Let's move on to our squareds. We've got a positive 4x squared, positive 2x squared. That is a positive 6x squared. 4 plus 2 is 6. Add the coefficients. Bring along the variable component. Okay, then we run into a negative 3x and a positive 8x. So a negative 3x plus 8x is a positive 5x. And minus 6. He stands alone. So there is my final answer. And we are going to cut this video here because I feel it's just like that was enough. And in our next video, we will tackle the last 3 problems, examples 8, 9, and 10. So stay tuned for that. Okay, thanks for watching.